Ah, there we go. Take the weight off my feet. Oh. Hello guys and welcome back to Car Obsession. So, the weekend just gone, I was at the Nürburgring. In fact, I came back late last night, well, late-ish last night, and I thought whilst the memory is still fresh in my mind, let me talk about costs and budgeting. So if you're thinking about going to the Nürburgring, I would like to think this is going to be a very useful video. Now I won't lie, it won't be the most dynamic video, it's not going to be the most exhilarating, but like I say, it should hopefully be helpful. So let's kick off with the ferry. Now there's a choice between going ferry or Eurotunnel. The Eurotunnel is faster, I think it's 3 times as fast give or take, but it's normally around double the price. So it's all depending on whether you want to spend that extra bit of money to go a bit faster. Because I wanted to do this trip on a bit of a budget, not necessarily a shoestring budget, but I didn't want to spend too much, I went with the ferry. I used a website called ferrysavers.co.uk. They were very good. Granted, if you do need to contact them, you can't ring them, you have to go on live chat. The live chat isn't the fastest. I found in my experience, email was the fastest way to get a response. So if you do need to contact ferry savers, bear that in mind. But the ferry to and from Calais turned out to be £99. So I would argue pretty good value. Now, the links for the websites I've used will be in the video description, so please do check them out. I'm sure there are other companies you can use for the ferry, but the Ferry Savers is kind of like a comparison really. You get all the major ferry operators in one place on one website, so very useful. So next up we have accommodation. Now ideally you'd want to go to the Nürburgring with other people, and I'd say the more people the better. The reason why I say that is because if you're sharing accommodation, then the cost will be split between more people. I went with good friend and fellow YouTuber Pocket Rockets and his fiancée Becca. Our accommodation, so my third of the accommodation worked out to be £130. We had a 3-bedroom house, had a drive. It was pretty good, to be fair. The resort was called Lindner, I think. I will again put a link in the video description. Would I stay there again? Yes, I would, because it's convenient, it's very close to the Nürburgring, and it's in a prime spot, and I would argue it is good value. The slight drawback with the accommodation is that it is relatively basic, but that's not a complaint because it's a cheaper price. You have to expect that. I think my biggest complaint are the beds. The beds aren't very comfortable, and the pillows, they're really thin. I know it's a picky complaint when it's a cheaper accommodation, but this is feedback. You may want to stay there, so bear that in mind. I also found the beds seem to retain quite a lot of heat, even though it wasn't particularly warm in Germany. It was, I'd say about anywhere between 10 and 15 degrees, so not warm. That's Celsius, by the way, not Fahrenheit if you're watching this in America or somewhere else that uses Fahrenheit. And even so, during the night, I was getting really hot in the bed. The second night I stayed, I actually left the window open, and despite the room being cold, the bed wasn't. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind. But enough talking about beds, because yeah, this is meant to be talking about money. Yes, I would stay there again. Annoyingly, the house we had one of the steepest drives there. So bearing in mind I'm in a lowered MX-5, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, but we got through it. We got through it. So where are we? £99 for the ferry and £130 for the accommodation. Well, my share of the accommodation at least. You have to excuse me, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so yeah, I was snoring terrifically during the weekend because of the bed. Next up is another key one for the trip, fuel. Now this is one that is bound to vary quite a lot depending on your car, the miles per gallon, and also the way how you drive the car when you're there and on the way there. So that is quite a variable topic, but at least I can give you the fuel prices, well, present at the time of filming this video. You may be watching this in 2 years' time and the fuel prices could have fluctuated massively, but I've tried to keep as many receipts as possible. There we go. So my first fill up was in Belgium at a Total Energies garage. That worked out to be, so this is in euros, €69.21, which when converted to sterling, that works out to be £57.94. That was for just over 40 litres of fuel. And the price per litre, this is 98 spec by the way, price per litre, you're looking at €1.72, give or take. So not too bad. I'd like to think that's on par with what it is in the UK at the moment. So yeah, I will convert that. Actually, let me quickly convert that.
A few minutes later.
Okay, took me a fair while. I was faffing about, but that works out to be sterling £1.44, which is actually pretty good. I'd say compared to my local area, that fuel is actually cheaper than what I'd get around here. So yeah, that's pretty good. So that's the first lot of fuel. Whilst I was there, I did get some snacks. That worked out to be, this is in pounds, £6 and 7 pence. And I also needed a comfort break. Now, one thing I found travelling on the continent is that every services will charge you to use the toilet. This is my, so that's my receipt. So it was 90 cents, which works out to be about 75p. Now, I'm not too fussed about paying for the amenities abroad because the toilets are considerably nicer compared to the UK. So yeah, you go to some service stations in the UK, and it's like an old pub. It's just stinks, dingy, and a lot of the toilets are out of order. But you don't really get that on the continent. Well, not in my experience. There may be other people that will differ, but yeah. So that's that fuel stop. We've just dropped a receipt. One thing I've skipped was I got breakfast on the ferry in Dover, on the DFDS ferry. That was £12.95. What else have we got? So following the fuel stop and the snacks, kept driving through, didn't spend any money until we got there. We had dinner in the evening. Obviously, I had a pizza, some fries and drink. That worked out to be, in euros, €15.71, which in sterling equates to £13.13. So yeah, pretty good. It was a big old pizza as well. The portion of fries was generous. So yeah, I've got no complaints there. And the food was really nice actually. And that was pretty much our first evening done and dusted. We move on to the laps. Now, if you go to the Nürburgring at present on a weekday, it's €30, which in sterling works out to be £25.06 at the current conversion rate. But because we went to the Nürburgring on a Saturday, you have to pay the weekend rate, which to be fair is only €5 more. So it's not a massive jump up in price. So it's €35 per lap, and that works out to be, I think, £30.44, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, £30.44 per lap. Yeah, I think that's not too bad, in all honesty. And I ended up doing 4 laps. So, well, I mean, that's £120, give or take. Yeah, around £120. So, yeah, I did do more laps than I anticipated, but I just really enjoyed myself. I would have done more if I didn't want to completely blow my budget. But I'd say that's one key thing to think about in advance, how many laps you want to do. You really want to set yourself a limit. Otherwise, you can go crazy. It's very easy just to go into the Nürburgring website, just keep getting credits, and before you know it, you're probably looking at your balance going, oh my God, I've just lost £200. So yeah, so before I went, I'd say my limit was 2 or 3 laps, but once I got there, once I experienced it, I was a little bit more liberal with my money. In fact, I was tempted to do a 5th lap, but on the Saturday, the track was closed quite a few times. There were quite a few accidents, and by that point, by the time the dust has settled, it was getting quite late in the day. I thought, you know what, I've had 4 laps. That's more than I was anticipating to do, so let's leave it there. And it's always that sort of moment of, I'll do one more, and it's the one more where you end up having some kind of accident or mechanical failure. So I thought, you know what, Monique, my MX-5, she's performed admirably. I mean, valiant. Oh my god, I've got car lag. Is there such a thing as car lag? Valiantly is the original word I was looking for. But yeah, she performed really well. I thought, no point pushing her. She's over 25 years old now. So yeah, there's no point in tempting fate. So that's the laps out the way. What else did I spend my money on whilst I was there? So just going through my list. I've actually got my list here. There we go. So in regards to what else? So on the Saturday, I got lunch. I got traditional bratwurst, which was €9.50. That came with a portion of fries, which works out to be £7.94. So hopefully, by the power of editing, you will see a running total somewhere on the screen. We also went to the museum, which I'd recommend. Only €12 a ticket. There isn't loads to see in there, but if you've never been to the Nürburgring, I would urge you to check in and give it a look. €12 a ticket, which works out to be £10.03 in sterling, of course. I've already spoken about the laps. Saturday night dinner, we went to Pinocchio's. Now this is an interesting one. I'll try not to segue too much from the main topic of the video, but Pinocchio's had come quite highly recommended, and we were thinking about trying there anyway, regardless. But a few people on Instagram recommended Pinocchio's to me, and I'll be honest, I was disappointed. I've got to be honest. I don't want to focus on that subject too much. But to sum it up, the service wasn't particularly good. They didn't seem bothered whether or not they had our custom. That we didn't feel like we were a worthwhile customer, if that makes sense. We were very rushed. This is not an exaggeration. In the 5 minutes we had been sat down, we had 3 separate waitresses asking us for a drink, and we'd barely opened the menu, and we were asked what we would like to order in regard to food. So yeah, felt very rushed, quite cramped in there, and the food was pretty good. But would I recommend it, or would I go back? Honestly, no. Anyway, that's enough about Pinocchio's. So I got bruschetta as the starter. I had one of the steaks as a main, and I had a mezzo mix. So that came out at €45, which I think, given the quality of the food and the portion sizes, in Pinocchio's defence, I do think that is good value. I just think there needs to be more space in there, and the customer service just has to be better. And they don't take card, which is kind of annoying. So that works out to be £37.60. So I'd say that's pretty good. I'll be honest, I was expecting the food and the drink to be a lot more expensive out there, because I thought, well, they're gonna hike up the prices for the tourists. But you know what? I would say the prices were fair. So I've got no complaints there. What else have we got? So we're moving into the miscellaneous territory now. So just kind of odds and sods, and just things that you may not be spending money on. But souvenirs. Originally, because I thought I was going to have less money than I thought I would going out, I didn't really budget any money for souvenirs. I thought maybe just a key ring or something would do me. I'm a bit of a sucker for a key ring. I've got far too many. I've also got far too many mugs, but they didn't stop me buying a Nürburgring mug. But yeah, I do have too many mugs, but never mind. So souvenirs, I went a little bit crazy in the end. So as you can see, I've got a Nürburgring t-shirt. I also bought another t-shirt, which I will insert the photo now. I was going to go and grab the t-shirt now, but I don't know where it is, so let's not faff about. So yeah, got quite a few souvenirs. So souvenirs for myself came out to be €48.35, which in sterling works out to be £40.37. I also got the other half a key ring, so I thought it'd be rude not to bring her back something, and she wanted a key ring as well. She's clearly just as bad as I am when it comes to key rings. And that key ring was €9.95, which in sterling is £8.31. And in case you don't know, in case you're not a subscriber or you haven't followed me for long, I do have a daughter. She's almost 4 now, and I thought, again, I need to bring her back something. She likes to play with my old toy cars, so I thought, let me get her a toy car. So I got a 911 GT3 RS. That was €10, which works out to be £8.35. And then I put the other T-shirt I mentioned a few moments ago, which I inserted the clip on. There we go, the photo. That was €31, which works out to be £25.89. Whilst I was mooching around, I got a coffee and a drink. That worked out to be... can't remember what that was in euros, but in sterling, that was £5.59. Right, make sure I haven't missed anything. No. Okie dokie. Saturday evening, I popped to Aldi because I wanted some throat lozenges because my throat was quite bad. Couldn't find any. I went to Netto, I think, then Aldi. I couldn't find any lozenges, but I came up with macaroons, so it's all good. That was €5, so €5.14, which works out to be £4.29. Then we move on to photos. Now, in case you're wondering about fuel, I did spend more on fuel, but I'm coming on to that because I'm trying to do things in some kind of chronological order. Photos. So there are numerous photographers around the Nürburgring, and I've got some really cool shots. Originally, I was only going to get one photo, but I thought, you know what, when in Rome or when in Nürburg, I got a few photos. I did go a bit mad, so I think I got 5 photos. Yeah, I think I got 5 photos, which works out at €59, and that's £51.32. I ended up finding another photo that I quite liked, and I got a photo for Pocket Rockets Chris because he actually did go out on the ring on the Friday evening in Gingy, his Ford Fiesta ST. Yeah, that's a bit of a fun one. We went round Callan Head and it was damp, and he took the inside line. So yeah, if you know what Callan Head's like in the wet, I don't really need to tell you much else really, but needless to say, the rear end almost overtook us. That was an interesting moment. That's one of my first-hand experiences of the Nürburgring, and I was spinning, looking towards a barrier. But yeah, I got a photo for Chris as well as a treat. So in the end, so per photo, it works out at, so what's that? That's £13.04. So yeah, I got the €59 that I spent on the 5 photos that I got originally, which was £51.32, and then for the 2 additional photos per photo, I think they're €14.99, which in sterling is £13.04. So in total, on photos alone, I spent about £77. Yeah, that's definitely more than I was expecting to pay on just photos, but it's worth it because they're memories. So yeah. Move on to the second lot of fuel that I got, which was actually when we left the Nürburgring yesterday morning. That was at the ED garage, ED or Ed, but quite a famous garage, and they got loads of model cars in there. It's an Aladdin's cave for a petrol head. But I spent £60.71 on fuel. And what does that work out per litre? So again, it's 98. So in euros, that was £72. £72? €72, 71. And what was it per litre? Where is that? Ah, there we go. So per litre, it's, if you round it up, that's €1.75. So again, I'd argue pretty good value. Whilst I was at the garage, I grabbed a coffee, that was £3.09. That was in sterling. I don't know what, I think in euros, I think it was about £3.75 or something, £3.95. But I haven't got the receipt for that, so I can't say definitively. And we're nearing the end. So, yeah, I must confess, I haven't actually done a grand total, so I will need to, at some point, insert a SpongeBob SquarePants meme and then come back to you with a final price of how much I spent. And I must confess, at this point, I haven't actually calculated it, so I don't know how much I've spent. So you're going to be finding out at the same time as I am. So hopefully it won't make me cry, because it didn't feel like I spent a lot over there, but it all mounts up, doesn't it? Anyway, so yeah, left Nürburgring. I fueled up again in Belgium at a Shell garage. I've got the receipt here. Be interesting to see what the Shell garage is in comparison to cost. €49, 74, and I think per litre that was, if you round it up, €1.72. So again, pretty good. I thought the fuel, honestly, would be a lot more expensive, so I'm quite pleased with that. That in sterling worked out to be £41.53. Whilst I was there, I spent a penny, or should I say 67 of them, because the toilets were 67p. I think the toilet was 80 cents if we're doing it in the euro specification. And whilst I was there, I also grabbed a Starbucks, which was €5.95, which works out to be £4.97. And I got a few lunch bits, €11.70, and that works out to be £9.81. And that is genuinely everything. So, yeah. Now, some of you may be wondering, did I get insurance or any breakdown cover? No, because I like to live life on the edge.
Danger's my middle name.
No, genuinely, I didn't go for the breakdown cover because I was quietly confident Monique would be fine, and she was. Now this is tricky. Would I recommend you to get European breakdown cover? Probably. Yeah, it's probably a good idea, but I was a maverick and I chose not to do that. I think with the AA for my car, for my Mark MX-5, it worked out to be £68. And you may think, well, Aaron, you're an idiot. Why didn't you just buy that? You'd have a fair point. I'll take that on the chin. But I was trying to save costs, and you may think, well, yeah, but if you had a breakdown, you wouldn't have been saving costs. So that makes no sense. Again, I get that, but it's a risk I took, and it's a risk that paid off because I didn't need to have any breakdown cover. And again, insurance. My car insurance gives me European third party, but obviously when you're going on the Nürburgring, that's not valid. Would I recommend you to get insurance for the Nürburgring? This is a tricky one because it all depends on how much it's likely to cost you. The Nürburgring can be an expensive place to crash. That's one thing that I kept being reminded of before I went, which was really nice of people. It's like, yep, I know it's expensive if I crash. Stop reminding me. I'm trying to focus on not crashing here. The thing is, with the insurance, as much as some would argue it's worth having, the slight challenge is that the excess can be very high. Although in the grand scheme of things, you'll still be paying less than what you would be if you had to pay for everything. Whilst I was there were two JDM Civic Type Rs that, had quite a nasty off. Thankfully, the drivers were okay. And from what I could see, having seen the cars, I think the damage is just cosmetic. But, I don't know how much it's going to cost them. So those are things worth bearing in mind. Anyway, I need to tot this all up and give you a grand total, which I will do in sterling. So, once more, we need some lift music and probably a SpongeBob meme. Right, okay.
2,000 years later.
Okay, that was more strenuous than I thought it would be to calculate it. In hindsight, I should have made an Excel spreadsheet. That would have been a lot easier. I worked it out four times, and I got 3 different results. But they were all within a few pence of each other, so I think it's just where I've just mistyped something along the way. But so for everything combined, it came to £788.15. Actually, that isn't quite right. I completely forgot about the motoring abroad kit and also the breathalyzers that I purchased from Halfords. Together, they came to £37.99, which of course needs to be added onto the total. So the £788.15 plus the £37.99 gives a new total of £826.14. Woo-wee! Those are some big numbers. After I've shot the video, I will just do one more calculations, and if I need to correct myself, I will insert it here. But either way, I'm pretty confident it's going to be £788 and something pence. So yeah, it's more than I thought I had spent, if I'm going to be honest, but it's less than what I had budgeted originally. Now, for the sake of interest for myself and also probably for you guys, so let's say, yeah, the trip came out to about £788. What if I hadn't have got the photos, and what if I hadn't have got the souvenirs? So it would have come down quite a bit. The trip would have cost me that much. £628.15. So I do hope this video has been useful. I know it's been quite a long video. It's been, I'd like to think, quite thorough. Not necessarily the most exhilarating, but hopefully informative. That's the word I'm looking for. So if you do want to do a trip for the Nürburgring, my advice would be, my advice would be, like any big trip, try and over budget yourself. So it's better to have too much money in your budget than not enough. For example, last thing you want to do is have a budget of, let's say, £700. You get there and somehow you end up spending £1,000. All of a sudden you're in a bit of a sticky situation. Whereas if you go over there expecting to spend £1,000, for example, £1,000, and you only spend 700, then that's a good place to be, isn't it? So yeah, my advice would be, where possible, over budget. Do your research beforehand. I'd like to think you will find things to be surprisingly affordable over there. I thought a lot of things would just be so much more expensive just because it's a Nürburgring, and some of the businesses there could get away with charging more, but I appreciate and I respect I respect the fact that they don't take the mick out of tourists. You don't turn up and they pull your trousers down. Yeah, everything I would say is quite well priced for what it is. So anyway, time for me to end, because I know this video has been quite long and I'm actually running out of storage on my voice recorder. So yeah, I do need to make a finish to this video. I do hope you have found it useful. I know this hasn't been the most exhilarating video, but hopefully you have found it informative. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession. Oh, I did it with 8 seconds left to spare. It's like an action film.